Hi guys, it's Josh Rubin here with our latest episode of the Rubin Special live from New York City. I'm joined by my friend Doug Edrington from Chattanooga, Tennessee. How is it going down in Chattanooga today, Doug?
It's going amazing. Beautiful day out, heading on vacation tomorrow, so can't be better.
I'll bet. Where are you guys headed on vacation?
Sarasota, Florida. Gonna go get some sun rays down in Florida. Maybe I don't know, isn't that close to Byron? Maybe pop in and say hey to him. I don't know.
Our friend Byron Lazine, who is the honorary mayor of Naples, Florida, likes to go down there for a few weeks a year and vacation with his wife, of course. But I think Byron is back on the Connecticut shoreline doing what he does best, and that's leading his team up there. So, Doug, tell us, you're leading this team at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services in Chattanooga. You made the transition over there, about a couple of years ago now, if I'm not mistaken?
2 years ago. 2 years ago last month.
Cool. Well, congratulations on your 2-year anniversary. Tell us a little bit about sort of the dynamics of the team in today's market. I know you've been hit with a couple challenges, not the least of which have been a pandemic and a tornado hitting smack dab in the middle of Chattanooga.
That's correct. So, we have been doing really good right now. I've been super proud of our team. It's been a lot of hard work, of course. I think that your pandemic and your world is probably a little crazier in New York City area than it is in Chattanooga. But at the same time, yeah, we had tornadoes hit us in actually Easter Sunday is when it hit. And,
Wow.
I think there was, don't quote me on this, but I want to say like 350 homes that were a complete loss. But then there was 1,300 homes that were displaced people from homes because of remodeling and that sort of thing. So that was Easter, and COVID hit like early March. So honestly, the tornadoes really helped our business, as sad as it is, from everything that there were lives lost, there were people displaced from homes, but we were really prepared for the opportunity that strikes. You may have heard the definition of luck. It's when opportunity and preparation meet. And
Yep.
as soon as COVID hit, I think we were probably the only real estate office in Chattanooga that actually closed down. We closed down on
Wow.
March 16th. And because we've been operating via Zoom, we've been using technology already. So it wasn't a big deal. We're like, let's just be safe, about it and continue pushing forward. Lots of training. We've been trying to create a conference high during this whole situation because people needed inspiration. So I've had speakers from all over the country talking to our team and our company about, what they're doing, challenges they've been through. Brandy Laffins in Chico, California, a couple of years ago, they had 90% of their town burnt down. And so we learned a lot from them. I've got some friends down in Texas and Louisiana where they've been hit by, and Florida where they've been hit by oil spills and hurricanes. And so it was just like, let's talk about the good that came from all of this. And I think it really improved, our scenario. I know the Edrington team is set. Right now, we're like 2 units away from breaking a record for next month, for the month of June. We're just 2 units away from breaking a record for all time since we've been open for a little over 2 years. So, I mean, things are actually surprisingly good.
That's incredible. So you're talking about volume-wise, you're 2 units away from setting a record for the month or for any month?
For the month of for a month since we've been open in our brokerage. I want to say we were solely a team before we owned the brokerage, and I think the most we ever did in a month was a little over 60 units. The team is set to do, I want to say 43 units right now for next month, and actually December of last year we hit 46.
Wow,
so we're trying to beat December, as crazy as that sounds. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, Doug. And tell me a little bit about sort of the team and how many people are on it, right now, because it's a lot, to do, 40 plus units in a month. I mean, some people don't do that in 2 years.
Sure. So we've got 16 salespeople. I'd say out of the 16, probably 5 of them are pretty green right now. We've been hiring a lot lately, so we got some new people. But we're 16 salespeople, marketing director of operations. We've got a couple other people on the support side to help us out. But the real push is 16 salespeople, Two of those are mentors. One of those are also our director of recruiter as well to help out. So we've got a couple people that wear two hats.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have a pretty solid support network then in place with, with these other agents, right?
1000%. We would not be where we are today if it wasn't for the team. I mean, it really is a true team sport for us.
Yeah. It's interesting that you point that out because, as a team lead, I've had many occasions where, people have gone on vacation or for whatever reason, they're out of the office, whether it be, medical leave, somebody's sick, and
Life
you
happens.
really do feel the dynamic pretty quickly as soon as that person, leaves. And it's incredible how reliant you are on these people, and it's important that you find the right people. So tell me a little bit about the support staff and how you've sort of honed in on the right balance of not only the number of people, but the type of people that you have, and making sure that just the complexion of the support staff is just the right way.
On the support staff side, so it's got to be a healthy, when you think sales team and support staff, they're almost like two separate teams, right? And it's really important that they are aligned with each other. So a lot of our support staff is involved in our trainings, they're involved in our meetings. I think earlier on in our business, we kept them very separated, and it definitely became black and white. We realized we got to keep the cultures together. So we highly recommend having your sales and your support staff very involved. Even our marketing director is part of our sales trainings. So as she's trying to create content, she understands what we're doing. So having those things aligned are very important. When we hire, we think of a couple things on either side, sales or support: hungry, humble, smart with swag. We are salespeople. You can't be awkward in first impressions, because first impressions really kind of can either make it or break it, right? So hungry, humble, smart with some swag. And but I think one of the biggest things that I've focused on this year, that I want to move forward in is when we hire somebody, do they feel like they're an owner in the team? And I don't mean like monetarily. I mean, do they take ownership in the team, or are they renting a place from us right now? Are we just a placeholder in their journey? And I know we don't own people, and they're not going to stay with us forever and ever and ever. I hope they don't, because I hope they grow past us and make good decisions in life. But when it comes to the question, I'm not sure who our audience is, other than probably a ton of realtors and a bunch of your clients. But when they're thinking about the people that are on their team, if you ask each individual on your team, or ask yourself about each individual on the team, like, do they own this team, or are they just are they just renting a space? Like, when there's a problem, do they say that's not my job, or do they jump in, fix the problem that they got in front of them, and then take a step back and say, how do we systemize this to where I don't have to be fixing everybody's problems, because that becomes stressful and taxing too.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it's important that we take ownership of our success, right? And celebrate our successes. But, when there's something to address, like a mistake, it's important to own up to that too, as early as possible. I look at mistakes, Doug, as almost like, having a property where, you come there after, let's say you come home after a vacation and you find a flood, right? Now, are you just going to say, close the door and turn around and go back on vacation and say, oh, I'll deal with it another day? Or are you going to figure out, where the flood is coming from, shut the water off, and, clean it up and make sure that it doesn't happen again? I mean, that's really what you have to do. I sold a property a number of years ago. I was representing the seller on it, and it was a top floor penthouse, and it had this beautiful outdoor terrace. And of course, it had irrigation, so it had water. And up here in the Northeast, the winters can be pretty severe. So what happened was, in the wintertime, no one told the new owners that they had to turn off the shutoff valve leading to the terrace. So they went away, and they came home, and there was a flood because the pipe leading to the terrace froze. And so what did they do? They didn't sort of blame themselves and figure out how to fix it. They turned around and they blamed me as the seller's agent for not telling them that there was a shutoff valve. I said, well, you need to shut off the water. I had to teach them how to do all of these things, thinking that, as a homeowner, you kind of know how to winterize your home. So you really have to be able to address, these issues up front and know in advance how to fix them. and take ownership, even if it's not your problem. If you see somebody trip in the street and say, well, it's not me who's tripping in the street and fell. It's everybody's problem around. So you really have to pitch in. So that's a good point. Now, you have this team. You've pivoted over to Brown Harris. I'm sorry, Brown Harris, Berkshire Hathaway.
Brown Harris, yeah, same thing.
Similar,
right? Yeah.
similar initials. It's a firm here in the city, who I think very highly of. But Berkshire Hathaway, what made you shift? Because you had a pretty successful career at your prior brokerage. So what made you make that shift?
What's interesting is at the brokerage that we were at before, we made a lot of progress. We learned a lot being in that environment. That environment was great for us to get us to where we're at. But the old saying, what got you here won't get you there. And I remember sitting down with my broker at the time and saying, like, hey, here's my situation. I want to, we sold, I remember it very clearly. We sold 491 homes that year. And it was a great year, right? And we were coming up we were in the fourth quarter, and it was kind of my routine at the fourth quarter. I wanted to sit down with my broker, and I wanted them to tell them what I wanted to do, because anything I ever did in our brokerage usually caused them some stress, and some headache. And so, it does. And so I sat down, I said, hey, we're at this size team. We want to grow to this size team, and I want to sell this many houses. And I basically got told, Doug, you work really hard and you make pretty good money. Like, when's it ever going to be enough? And like, oh my God, like my face probably turned pale white or beet red. I'm not sure which one it was, because I was just like, who am I talking to? Like I don't understand. And what I had to, now that I have some time to sit back and reflect on it, just because it's good for me means it may not mean it's good for somebody else. Right. And so I was going to put a lot of stress on them. I was going to put a lot of expectations on them. But what I realized is that we weren't a good fit anymore, because I was basically surrounding myself with people that weren't helping me reach my fullest potential. So we did a bunch of interviewing. I mean, we interviewed a ton of people of other companies at that point. I mean, it was instant at that mode of like, this isn't going to work long term, because I need to have a mentor. I need to have a leader that's going to help me become the best that I can be, right? And so we went shopping, and what I learned from it all is that a lot of the local brokerages, now Chattanooga is a lot smaller than New York City, of course, but I didn't really find that mentorship that I was seeking. So we decided to go to a higher level. Gino Bafari, who was the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services at the time, and then now is the CEO of the mother company, Home Services America, reached out to him and just said, hey, I got to find a way to work with this organization, probably on our own brokerage at this point. Now, I don't recommend anybody necessarily to open up their own brokerage. There's a lot of pros and cons to it. But generally speaking, it's about finding good mentorship. So if you're watching this video and you're sitting here saying, when I go to my team leader, when I go to my broker, when I go to my mentor, is that person pushing me outside of my comfort zone? Are they giving me opportunities? And I don't mean handing you an opportunity, but are they giving you the environment where you can create your own opportunities in there to help you reach, your true potential? And so Gina was a big part of that. Always challenged me along the way. And so, I feel very honored to have that relationship with somebody that high up in the industry. But, going back to like, if someone's wanting to take something away from this, for sure, is the old saying, you are who, you're an addition of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. You're most likely those people, right? You should really challenge yourself on that. One of my best friends in my wedding, after a certain point, I had to cut them out of my life. One of the hardest things I've ever done. Because it was really tough, because I felt as I could help that person, but there became a point where I felt like I wanted it more than they did. And so either I'm going to pull him up or he's going to pull me down. And if I can't pull him up, there's sure as hell not letting him pull me down. And so, that was that was really one of the really hard decisions I made in my life. But because of that, it's opened up more doors for me. It's you only have so much time as an individual to invest in others. We've got a mastermind group. We meet every single week. Like, that's tough, right? You and I know, like, sometimes we're coming to the call like last minute, hanging up on a phone call, but we all value that time because we can all add value to each other. So really surround yourself with the right people. And that also maybe your employer or your broker or mentor, whoever, team leader, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that says a lot. And so, how did you get into the business? I'm curious because I mean, the Doug Edrington that I know is this guy that just like knocks it out of the park year in, year out, 400 to 500 homes sold. You have this team, you have your setbacks, but you're still cranking out the volume. You pivoted and you created this sort of brand within a national franchise a couple of years ago. But like, where did you get your start?
Where did it start? So I'll go way back. I was 15 years old, and my dad, who has been a salesperson his whole life, I mean, he worked for the automobile industry, started as a car salesman, worked his way up to a dealer operator, and then he was the rep for a large manufacturing company, automobile manufacturing company in the Southeast. He bought a house in Ooltewah, Tennessee, on 3 acres, and it had a second house on the property. The reason he did that is because my grandmother was at a point where she needed to be closer to family, so it kind of all worked out. Well, our families were good friends with another family, and it was night and day from my dad. My dad taught me how to be a salesperson, taught me how to work hard, taught me how to do a lot of really great things. This other guy, who I jokingly refer to as my second dad, he taught me how to swing a hammer. Because my dad called him up and said, "Hey, I'm about to pay a contractor to remodel this house. Will you, can I give you a couple $100 a week or a month to just watch the contractors?" My dad's like, "I don't want to get screwed." My dad will sell ice to an Eskimo, but he doesn't know which way to turn the light bulb, that kind of guy. And I don't mean that in an insulting way by any means.
Doug,
And,
Doug,
he's staying in his lane.
You are preaching to the choir. It just took me 2 weeks to install a ceiling hung bike rack in my garage. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah. We got to work on that. But, so anyways, this other guy's name's Vic. Vic says, he tells my dad, "Your son's 15, my son's 14. It's about time they learn how to do something." And he says, "We're just going to do it ourselves." So we basically tore the house down, built a new house in 2 years, learned a lot. He taught me, he has a bunch of rental property in Nashville. So he'd take me up on the weekends and we'd work on houses. And I got really intrigued by that. When I turned 18, I decided I wanted to flip a house. I was going to school to be an electrical engineer. Don't really know why. Definitely not my lane. But that was like the path I was headed in. And anyways, I decided I want to flip a house. So grandma co-signed on a loan with me to buy the first house for like 40 grand. My parents helped me get credit cards for Lowe's and Home Depot and that sort of thing. And I flipped my first house. And throughout that process, my mother, Grace, was like, at the time, she's like, "Hey, I should get into real estate." There was some influence from another family member in Florida. And she said she'd get in real estate. My dad's like, "Hey, I'll get my license and I'll retire doing this one day." And then shortly after I got my license, I turned 19 when I was in real estate school. And so ever since then, we just kind of got started and started pushing. And we were just like everybody else. Our first year as a family team, so we were a team from day one, we sold like 13 houses. And so like that doesn't do you a whole lot when your average price point's like 95 grand. Like that's like your average commission, right? So like, different in Chattanooga. And this was 15 years ago. And so we got started. We pushed and pushed and pushed. We slowly grew. We're like 13 houses the first year, maybe 30 houses the next year. We worked our way up to 100 houses. Now, as the years gone by, obviously I'm maturing from being a young adult to still a young adult. I'm like 22 now. And about to get married, and my wife looks at me and she's like, "Are you going to be gone all this time? Are you going to work this hard? Are you going to like," and it was the wake up call. And no joke, my wife laying in bed one night, my wife YouTubes how to run a real estate team and says, "Doug, can you please just watch a video and figure out a better way to do it?" No joke whatsoever, because we were just killing ourselves. And it was actually a guy by the name of Ben Kinney, who's out of Bellingham, Washington. And he's got like an hour and a half long YouTube video. He's just sitting in his office, his assistant sitting behind him. And he's like, "People ask me all the time how to run a real estate team. So I thought I'd make a video about it." And he talks about systems, processes, a CRM, online lead gen, reviews, and more importantly, delegation. And so from that, I watched that video like 10 times. And of course, like now that years have gone by, my wife's corrected me and told me that she found the video and I didn't, which is very true. And I watched it, and we went from 100. We were stuck at 100 houses for a couple years in a row to the next year, we sold, I think it was 228 homes the following year. And it was like explosion. And it was all about delegation. So I don't think the message is always like start a team. It's be a part of a team, whether it's you're joining someone's team that has that delegation figured out so you can do what you enjoy the best. Because I hated the paperwork. I hated the marketing side of it. I hated dealing with, all the stuff that typical salespeople hate dealing with. And when I was able to delegate that out, it started to click, and then it just went up from there. So, we got into coaching quite a while back ago. And I learned a lot from my coach, and I learned a lot from the coaching organization that we're a part of. But I probably learn the most from being around the people that have been in it the longest, like people like you, and so, I've got people that call me up all the time and they say, hey, I'm thinking about getting into coaching and I'm broke. And I'm like, why don't you just join a team? Why don't you just kind of learn from that first?
Yeah, it's true.
Then maybe coaching will be next, because you're going to have a coach that you're already built into your paycheck. No risk, no fixed cost, right? So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's right.
A little backstory on me.
When I got into the business, there were no teams. Nobody had teams. It was everybody for themselves. And you get a lead and you fight like hell to do the best you can for them and hope that they refer you, and then it's sort of on to the next open house and you hope that you get another lead. That's really all that there was back then. And when I transitioned from Corcoran over to Douglas Elliman in 2008, that's when sort of teams were just taking hold, and there were probably 4 or 5 top brokers in the city, like of any brokerage. We were all in this office on 17th Street, right? It was me. It was Leonard Steinberg, who is now a friend and someone that I look up to. The chief evangelist is his title at Compass. He was like the number one big hire. He would be like essentially like the president of Compass if it weren't for him changing his title. Darren Sukenik and Andrew Anderson, Brian Meyer, and Dylan Hoffman were there. And Brian Meyer and Dylan were actually those people that introduced me to coaching and the idea of coaching. And so, and they had their little teams. They were like the nucleus, and then they had people radiating from them. And then I started to think about it over the course of that next year into 2009. And that's when I said, number one, I'm going to get into coaching. Number two, I'm going to start a team. And you're right. When you start to delegate, then you're able to free yourself up to do more of what you truly love. And some people truly love selling homes, and some people truly love managing people. And so you kind of figure out what you're most passionate about, and you kind of get in that lane, and anything else that has to do with paperwork, has to do with CRM management, has to do with marketing, anything that you're not into, you just delegate it out. And so, but that's the beautiful thing about a team, is that if you're starting out, you have the support network and you're able to sort of delegate those things away. So, here in the city, we don't do home inspections, but we do co-op and condo applications. And let me tell you, you've never done paperwork in this business until you've done one of those applications. And we have that nucleus that does the applications for our agents. So in the rare occasion that one of those people on the team who handles the transaction management is out, and the agent is getting paperwork from their client for the application, and they're like, wow, this is crazy. I could never do this. And you know what? They're right. It's impossible. I remember when I was an individual agent at Corcoran, sitting down on the floor of my office with papers spread out. You know how people do their tax returns and they have statements and receipts, and it's all scattered all over their living room? That's how I was. Exactly. The paperwork was scattered, and I was just like, oh my God. And that's when I realized I needed an assistant. But you're right. You got to have these layers of integral operations that you don't even realize. You think, oh, I can do this. I can go sell a house. I can, I'm good with people. I can open up a door. I can turn on lights. I know my way around town. Well, that's not even half of it, right? I mean, you really got to think about the back end, and you got to have the team, and you have to have somebody who's going to act, as you said earlier, like your relationship with Gino, who's going to act as a mentor and be able to sort of guide you, and sort of understand what lies ahead and how to overcome these challenges. So, that's pretty interesting, though, that your dad and your mom sort of came up in the business together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty wild. Everybody thinks it's generational, but really it's kind of all started at the same time, and one other note to think about too is for your audience that is in the business and they're trying to figure out how to get better. I think one of the best strategies to become an expert in this business is to shadow an expert. Okay. Shadow an expert as many appointments as you possibly can. The problem with shadowing an expert, like you can shadow an expert one time. Like there's tons of people in your marketplace, if you're an agent, listen to this, who will probably let you pick their brain, will let you go on one appointment with them maybe. But there becomes a point where they're like, hey, no. I'm not going to let you shadow me for months at a time here because like you're my competitor, right?
Right. What's in it for me?
Right. What's in it for me is what they're all saying. And most of the time you're not at a place to pay that person, nor are they in a place probably to receive compensation to coach because they're not coaches. They're just great salespeople sometimes, right? And so I think one of the best things you can do in this business, if you're like not where you want to be, is find the brokerage that has the broker that'll let you shadow. Find the team that has the team leader that'll let you shadow. Part of our organization is like within my team, we have 2 mentors, okay, underneath me that train all of our new agents. And so when someone comes onto our team, we have a certification process that we take them through: contracts, phone scripts, and then buyer presentation. And there's a lot more to it, but just to dumb it down, there's like 3 certifications they have to pass before they're allowed to even talk to a single one of our customers. But during that process and for an ongoing period after that process, our new agents are assigned homework assignments to shadow a number of agents across our team, high level, medium level, getting out started, and to actually give a written critique of how it went, what were their aha moments, what were their takeaways. Now, the written critique is really important because it's one thing to go on an appointment and like there's been new agents that have gone on an appointment with a great agent on our team or myself, and like, man, that was amazing. Like, how did you think that fast on your toes? Like, how did you know that answer? Or how did you overcome that objection? Or like they threw you a wild curveball. I remember one time specifically where I was at a listing presentation at a way high price point, like $700,000, which is way high in Chattanooga, Tennessee, right? And you're laughing at me. I'm still in like your commission check world. And so I remember like going on that appointment and I had someone shadowing me and the guy said, how many homes have you sold on the mountain? There's one of these mountains called Signal Mountain over here. How many homes have you sold on the mountain over $500,000? Now, the reality is, this was years ago. I think we had sold like 3. Okay. Our competitor they was talking to had sold hundreds of homes, right? And I think we had sold 3. We had 2 active listings over 500,000 and one we did not sell. There was one we didn't sell. And I remember saying, that's an interesting question. Let me actually show you all of the sales that we've done up here over 500,000. I pull up my computer and it's like zip code, price point, there's like 5. And he looks at me kind of funny and he says, I want to take you through each one of these experiences. This customer, here's what happened. Here's how they hired me. Here's the success story we had. I did that 3 times. The next one, I said, I've had this one listed for 2.5 years. And he looks at me kind of funny. And I said, I'm not proud that I have had this house for 2.5 years, but it says a lot that the seller is willing to stick with me for 2.5 years to sell this very unique property, that money is not a motivation for him. So we're efficient. So we're working together. And it says a lot about someone to hang in there with you for 2.5 years. This third person,
says a lot about you as the agent to hang in there for 2.5 years.
And then the last one, I talked about how we didn't sell it. It shows that it's not a sale, but we leased the property because it made the most sense for the person at the time. And I said, I have a perfect record. No one's fired me. I've not let anybody down in this price point. Now, can I show you the same stats in the rest of the town? And just that, I listed that house, and my competitor, who has way more statistical swagger than I do in that area, he actually interviewed him, and he felt he was scared that he was going to be a number in that guy's world. Because I also pulled up, I'm sure your MLS the same way, you can pull up stats on any agent. We saw that 35% of the homes he listed he didn't sell. And I don't think he has enough time to go through all the stories of why he didn't sell those houses. So I think, there's always a way and a strategy. The mentee that was with me got to see that, and I made them document everything after, because it's all about what's the book? Not a military guy, but I read the book. It was awesome. I listened to it. David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah, can't hurt me. Mm-hmm.
Can't Hurt Me. And in that book, and whoever's listening to this, it's military based, knows exactly what this is called. I can't remember the name of it, but after a project, I know project's not the right word, but after a mission that they're going through, after every mission, including drills, not even real life, they have to document how it went, what went well, where's the room for improvement. And that's so they can make forward progress, because what you think in the moment and what you think after the fact is two different things. And also, if you don't document how those experiences go, you never have the opportunity to reflect it. You start giving yourself, I did a video one time on this. It was called Shame, Blame, and Justification. You're either feel shameful of that you didn't succeed, you blame it on someone else, or you justify the reason of why it didn't go down, and you learn nothing. Yeah. So the whole purpose of documenting that situation and reporting to their mentor of what they learned from it, that's where all the magic happens. So full circle all the way back around.
Almost like, well, it's like a form of journaling your experience. So, when you write things down, it's almost like you're committing them to your memory and your broader experience, so that you don't just kind of cut out in such a way that, like, okay, well, that happened, it's behind me, and I learned my lesson, I'm going to go on. And then next thing you know, you're doing the same thing over again and making the same mistakes. And if you had just journaled your experience from before, you'd be journaling your success, but you'd also be journaling your mistakes and what could use a little bit more work. And so therefore you're going to have a better overall experience.
1000%. And to bring it full circle back all the way around, it's about shadowing, because we have a philosophy. We don't practice on paychecks. I'd rather you shadow someone that knows what they're doing, so you can learn the right ways to do it, document that. Now, when you go out on your own, you still do the same thing for a certain period of time. And so, but shadowing the mentor is huge. So make sure you're in an environment where you have that ability, because that is by far the number one thing you can do in this business, is shadow success and learn from their mistakes. Doesn't mean you have to mirror them, but you get to learn from them, and you can decide, do I want to mirror this person, or is that something I never want to do? Because that didn't go well, but you learn from it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it comes back to what we were discussing earlier on in the conversation, which is to just, understand what you did right, what you did wrong, sort of own up to it and be able to course correct and carry on. So with that, my friend Doug Edrington from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and the Edrington team at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciated your time and your incredible insights, Doug.
Hey, thanks for having me, Josh.
You bet. Talk to you soon.